How many times tonight have you said McKnight was right?
I am so pumped for McKnight Tonight.
See if you can work out why it infuriated me. You know I will get hate for speaking to you. Oh, speaking of Rant.
Welcome to McKnight Tonight. Now, here's Rob McKnight.
Hello and welcome to McKnight Tonight with me, Rob McKnight. And yes, it is Tipsy Thursday, which means tonight is very much a glass in hand kind of show. Better a glass than something else in your hand, I always say. How hot has it been? Yes, I'm in a t-shirt, and yes, there's now thunderstorms where I live, but goodness me, whoa, it's been a hot one. Look, tonight, another night of all hot topics. No interviews, no holding back, just a special night of hot topics and straight talking commentary. And before we get into it, I need to ask for your support. If you love what we do here, please consider becoming a paid member of the channel at youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. That's youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. Your membership helps keep the show independent, honest, and more importantly, on the air. And as a thank you, tomorrow night, I'll be hosting a special Zoom catch-up exclusively for our paid members. We'll have a drink together, we'll have a chat, and you can ask me absolutely anything. That's not a worry at all.
Really?
Well, I can't stop them asking, Amanda.
Yeah, just don't answer anything. Stay quiet. Just
You know
drink.
that's not my style. Half the fights in our relationship have been because I talk too much and give too much away. Like now.
Yes, exactly. Moving on.
That happens at 7 o'clock Queensland time tomorrow. That's 8 o'clock in New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania. 7:30 in South Australia and 5 o'clock in WA. Northern Territory, I'm not sure. You can work that out. All right, tonight is stacked. Big stories, big opinions, and probably one or two strong beverages along the way. I'm on the white wine because it's been so hot. Anyway, coming up, Barnaby Joyce quits the National Party after 20 years as speculation swirls over whether he'll jump to One Nation. Fury on the Gold Coast, where I live, as Mayor Tom Tate jets off to Italy to carry the Olympic torch, with ratepayers, of course, picking up the bill. Donald Trump responds to the shooting of the US National Guard members in Washington, D.C., but is his rhetoric fueling division instead of unity? Foxtel's new owner, DAZN, questions its multi-billion-dollar AFL deal and whether it's overpaying for Australia's biggest code. And the so-called Gen X dare. Experts weigh in on whether teens are rude, detached, or simply evolving how they communicate. Plus, a Backend Quickie, a random live shot of the day, and of course, Rob's Rant. Strap in, top up the glass. Let's get into tonight's hot topics. Former Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce has resigned from the National Party. Speculation had been brewing for months that he would leave after a 20-year career with the Nats. Shortly after making the announcement this afternoon, a seemingly emotional Joyce spoke with the media.
Look, it's really, in any relationship, when it breaks down, you just got to get to a point where you either live in sort of bitter recrimination and continue on with it, or you get out of it. And I think that's what I'm doing today, is I'm getting out of it.
You know, I'm not usually a fan of politicians leaving the party that they were elected to. I've spoken about this before. But on this, I think he's got a point. And he makes a few more points along the way. I want to take you through it, because Joyce then went into a little bit of detail on why he's been thinking of leaving the National Party for a while now.
I don't pretend to be a sort of a Delphic oracle of what happens in the future. I don't know. You just try to do the best. But it's after 30 years in the National Party, it's certainly not a decision I took lightly. It's not as if I fell over at the first hurdle. I've been trying to work way through this for a long period of time, say a couple of years, and I've just, there seemed no real resolution to the breakdown in the relationship, and therefore the smartest thing to do is move on.
And that breakdown of the relationship, he's obviously talking about with Nats leader David Littleproud, and there's going to be more on that. But I really have some sympathy for him. And I get where he's coming from, because loyalty is a two-way street. You cannot expect loyalty from someone if you don't give it back. And I'd argue that while I'm usually of the view that if you're elected as part of a party, people are voting for that party. If you run as a Labor member, a lot of people are voting because you are Labor, same as if you're Liberal. And of course, that's been the case over the years with the Nats. But I think Barnaby Joyce is actually bigger than the party. He's loved in his electorate. But next, a journalist asked Joyce whether he had left the National Party or had the National Party left him.
It's just, quite obvious. And you would have seen it. When they talk about generational change, that's code for get out of here. I don't think I have had a question in there for the last 1.5 years. I mean, you just got to read all the messages, and where you sit, quite obviously, is a metaphor. And I actually was asked directly to leave, and so you get to a point where you think, am I just going to continue on being the discordant note, or am I going to get out? That's smart. Peter Dutton twice.
Asked you to leave the party.
Has Susan Lee asked you anything similar?
No, of course not.
That is extraordinary. Peter Dutton was the leader of the Liberal Party. He should not be interfering with the National Party. It is outrageous that he asked Barnaby to leave not once, but twice. That's not on. But look, Tim Lester from Channel 7, he asked the best question of the day, and it cuts to the heart of an issue I have with politicians resigning. I've been talking about this from parties while still in office.
What do you say to National Party supporters who campaigned for you and who, when they voted Barnaby Joyce, thought they were voting for the Nationals and the coalition by extension?
Very good question. I'm not standing for New England again, so I'm not becoming, I'm not sort of taking New England into an independent seat. I'm handing it over, and I'm actually doing it with a lot of money that I've brought into the bank for them to actually campaign with. And I can't do much more than that. You can say, I will serve out my term to the best of my abilities, and that's what I'm going to do.
I agree with him. There's not much more he can do. He's literally been asked to leave the party. He has no relationship with the leader of the party. The leader of the party has actively pushed him up the back. I mean, Barnaby Joyce is one of the biggest names in Australian politics. He appears on Sunrise every week. He appears on so many other shows, and you're punting him up the back? Loyalty, as I said, is a two-way street. And the fact that he has banked a lot of money as part of a campaign fund and he's going to hand that over to the next person, that's admirable. And I've had issues with Barnaby Joyce. Him getting up in arms about his personal life being put out on the front page when his partner, or now partner, wife, Vicky Champion was pregnant. He's been passed out on the street. He's been drunk in Parliament. But I think he's pretty reasonable with all this, and it's obviously a huge decision for him. But of course, there's all this rumour about him going to One Nation. And, as journalists did, and should do, they asked him about that.
One Nation says that it is, or we believe, would offer you a Senate seat in New South Wales at the next election. Does standing for the Senate again for One Nation at the next election remain?
I'm certainly considering that. Okay, strongly considering it.
Sorry, Barney, I missed the beginning. Are you an independent now?
I've resigned from the National Party.
National Party, so you're just sitting as an independent.
I wanted to get. I left it to this day because I just wanted to get out of the building.
Why? What are you still considering in terms of the next step? This is
I don't
a
know.
plan you've been talking about for months with politics.
Yeah.
Why not just be honest about what your next move is?
Because I haven't made that decision. Why do you try and verbal me? I haven't made that decision yet.
What are you weighing up?
To me.
You said it at one point about a month ago you didn't want to sit as an independent, that you believe in the
Yeah,
party
that's right.
mechanics. So is your determination to find a political home before Parliament sits next year?
I'm still weighing up all opportunities. Like it might be in business, might be out.
So did you consider Like resign, change, comping a by-election, and if not, why not?
No, because I said at the start that I wouldn't. They've asked me at the start in New England, would you resign during this term? I think a lot of people in New England knew that this would be my last. I've made it quite clear to lots of people in New England, this is my last term in New England.
Tony called you the best retail politician in Australia. You're a former Deputy Prime Minister. The prospect of joining a fringe party with someone like Pauline Hanson, isn't that a bit weird?
Not really. Look, I haven't done that, but let's. The world's changing. You know, you take it in 1975. We're talking about Gough Whitlam. 102 out of the 127 seats were won on primaries, solely on primaries. The last election, 11 out of 150 were won on primaries. The world's changed. Politics has changed. The way people get media has changed. Your job's changed. You know, they're going online. It's different. It's echo chambers, and you can't rage against it and say, oh well, they're all going to come back and read broadsheets and that's it. It's all changed, and you can either change with it or get run over by it.
So it's a new era for One Nation.
I think it's a new era for everybody, isn't it?
Certainly is. And he's right. This show didn't exist when he entered politics, and no show like this. Now, YouTube is full of opinion shows. We're creating a community here where we're actually explaining things. It's funny, Amanda and I were talking the other day about news services. And I come away from the 6 p.m. news not really understanding stories. And I actually play longer grabs from people than what the news will do. The news will do a 10-second grab, but I think we lose context. I don't actually understand the story. There are sometimes a news story is compacted so much that I don't actually understand what's going on. So that's what I try to do differently here. He gets it. He knows the world's changing. And I come back to that loyalty. Why should he be loyal to people that aren't being loyal to him? And on that note, it has not taken long for the Nats to turn on him. This is Matt Canavan on the Today Show. I think it was yesterday when the issue of Joyce possibly leaving the Nats was discussed.
I want Barnaby to stay in the team. I think it's much more effective to their team. We've seen this week what a circus act One Nation is, and it might entertain, but it doesn't change anything. Ultimately, One Nation are much more about the outrage and much less about the outcome. I'll do my best to keep him part of the team. And if he's not, well, he's a political opponent. So on the football field, got to make the tackles.
We'll tackle you. Now, if you become my political enemy, we are coming for you. And if that was too subtle for you, according to Sky News, former National Senator John Wacker Williams sent this text message to Joyce. Barnaby, after 20 years of political friendship, if you join One Nation, then you will make me a political enemy. I'll hold you in the same regard as Tony Windsor. Your call. And Williams didn't back down when he spoke on Sky News this afternoon, shortly after Joyce made his announcement.
If Barnaby decides to stay in politics, no doubt he'll run for One Nation on a Senate ticket in New South Wales. He made that point today in the media address he did after his 90-second speech in the courtyard. And if he does that, well, he'll be a political opponent. The sad thing is this, actually. Barnaby's been a great local member. He's achieved so much for New England. But the National Party branch members and the supporters will remember Barnaby as one who went in the 2025 election as a Nationals member for New England, deserted us and went in independent, which he said he would never do. And that'll be his legacy, how he defected from the National Party. That'll be the sad thing he'll be remembered for by so many people.
Well, I call bullshit on that. I mean, I agree with the idea that he ran as a Nat and people voted for him as a Nat, but I'll come back to it again, I do think Barnaby Joyce is bigger as a candidate than the National Party in New England. So this bullshit of his legacy will be that he abandoned the party. If the party abandons him, why shouldn't he abandon the party? Again, loyalty has to be a two-way street. I will be loyal to you. I will give you everything, but you do me wrong and I'm out. You know, it's got to work both ways. But finally, let's hear what Nationals leader David Littleproud had to say about the departure of Joyce.
We're deeply disappointed Barnaby Joyce has made this decision. He's broken a contract with the people of New England and the National Party. When he decided to sit outside the National Party room, I rang him, made it very clear to him that he had a contribution to make to our party room until he resigned and retired at the next election. He asked me to give him time and space, and I've respected that. I've respected that by staying away and allowing him the time and space to make a decision, but I've reinforced in every public comment of our desire for Barnaby to rejoin our room.
Yeah, because you want the numbers. I mean, this isn't about friendship or you wanting him around. Barnaby's made it clear, you two don't get on. He hasn't had a question, what did he say? In a long time. He hasn't delivered one question in question time. And now he's made the decision that's right for him. I don't usually support people leaving a party that they were elected part of. But on this one, Barnaby, you've got my vote. All right, let me know your thoughts in the comment section of this video. YouTube.com/@McKnight Tonight. I'm looking forward to hearing what you think about that Barnaby Joyce topic and this one too. There's growing backlash on the Gold Coast tonight after the Mayor, Tom Tate, confirmed he intends to travel to Italy to carry the Winter Olympics torch with the cost billed to ratepayers. Now, the trip comes as the council looks to slash spending and after up to 100 staff were made voluntarily redundant as part of a push to find $75 million in savings. According to the Gold Coast Bulletin, Tate will travel to Milan from February 31st to February 11th and is the only major Southeast Queensland mayor to accept the invitation. The move, as you can imagine, has angered several councillors, with one labelling the overseas visit FFS, Winter Olympics, during internal budget discussions. Council CEO Tom Baker confirmed he will not attend, but has also faced scrutiny after billing ratepayers for a recent trip to the United States for an artificial intelligence conference. Tate says the visit is about leveraging international relationships and attracting major sporting events to the Gold Coast in the lead up to the Brisbane 2032 Olympics. Why does the Mayor of the Gold Coast need to go to the Winter Olympics? I can smell a rort. Can you smell a rort? I mean, goodness me. It would be a stretch if it was the Summer Olympics. You know, the Olympics are coming to Queensland. Gold Coast doesn't have the Olympics, but maybe they're saying, well, it's close. We want to, you know, work out what outer regions are doing, some crap like that. But the Winter Olympics, this is complete BS. And I am a ratepayer on the Gold Coast. I do not feel that I'm getting my rate's worth. Tom Tate has a stranglehold over the Gold Coast. It's been amazing. He can pretty much do whatever he wants. But let me take you through some things here. Because in one report, the Mayor undertook 6 overseas trips, costing ratepayers $103,957 in total. Now, that's according to the Gold Coast Bulletin. According to Council annual report data, more than $122,000 was spent on overseas travel in 24-25, including the Mayor's travel on over 67 days overseas. Again, thank you to the Gold Coast Bulletin. In 2022, 2 trips to the UK, March and July, included specific costs for one trip. Flights over $10,000, accommodation over $13,000, and another $8,000 for the Mayor. That one was thanks to the ABC. I've never understood why local councils need to go overseas. Yeah, they come with this crap. Sister cities. I'll give you the sister city, although, you know, but this idea that councillors, local councillors actually need to go overseas for anything. I tell you what, if I was making the decision, you'd be finding it pretty hard to get the okay to go on a plane. And this is my big problem with local councils. I think they're a waste of space. I think, though, a lot of people think the state, the state parliament is a waste of space. I actually think local councils, I'd get rid of them. Let the state run the councils, because I think we just waste so much money on the fees for these local councillors and and all this crap they do. And people don't really know who they're voting for most of the time. You know, on a federal level, on a state level, we have some idea of who we're voting for. But when you go in to vote for your local councillor, do you really know who you're voting for? Do you get there and go, I guess I'll vote for this one? This is why the same people keep getting in time and time again. I think it's ridiculous. And Gold Coast local councils, Gold Coast City Council has just proven once again we should get rid of local councils.
McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. I'm good to have a drink. Tonight. Here comes McKnight Tonight.
I told you there'd be no holding back tonight. Well, if that wasn't ranty enough, it's time for this. Now, tonight's rant involves a very serious issue. This week in Washington, D.C., 2 members of the West Virginia National Guard were critically wounded in what authorities describe as a targeted attack just blocks from the White House. In response, Donald Trump has made an address condemning the shooting as an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. But it was his political rhetoric during something so serious that just didn't seem right to me. Have a look and see what I mean.
I can report tonight that based on the best available information, the Department of Homeland Security is confident that the suspect in custody is a foreigner who entered our country from Afghanistan, a hellhole on earth. He was flown in by the Biden administration in September 2021 on those infamous flights that everybody was talking about. Nobody knew who was coming in. Nobody knew anything about it. His status was extended under legislation signed by President Biden, a disastrous president, the worst in the history of our country. This attack underscores the single greatest national security threat facing our nation. The last administration let in 20 million unknown and unvetted foreigners from all over the world, from places that you don't want to even know about. No country can tolerate such a risk to our very survival.
Is it just me, or when the president stands up on a topic so serious, I don't want to hear politics. I want information. I want to know what's being done. I don't want to hear about the previous administration and their perceived faults, whether real or imaginary. I just want the president to be a leader. When you act like that, you're not being a leader. You're being petty. There's plenty of time outside of this news conference to make the points you want to make about Joe Biden and his policies and how this guy got into the country. But when you are standing up as the president of the United States to calm a nation during a developing story, this is not the place for politics. You should be beyond that, above that. Donald Trump, this is where you let yourself down. Be a leader. Don't be so petty. That's Rob's rant. All right. I've still got plenty ahead for you tonight on this edition of McKnight Tonight. I'll be discussing Gen Z and their staring and why we shouldn't find it rude. Foxtel and AFL. Could Foxtel be giving up their AFL rights in the next broadcast deal? Find out about that. And I've got a Backend Quickie, and this is a classic moment. A politician caught seeing something on her phone that is a big game changer. And the moment is captured on camera. Yeah, that's worth sticking around for in this edition of McKnight Tonight. I'm getting to your feedback in just a second. Keep it all coming at youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. We look forward to your feedback, and I can see that there's lots coming in. I'm going to get to it all in a moment, but not before we visit somewhere lovely in our random live shot of the day.
It's the random live shot of the day. Where are you going today? You'll never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
Well, usually this is a lovely place, but not tonight. Our random live shot of the day is far from relaxing. It is a developing tragedy out of Hong Kong. This is the scene now, but earlier, At least 55 people, including a firefighter, have been killed in a massive fire as a massive fire tore through a high-rise housing estate in the Tai Po district. The blaze broke out on Wednesday and rapidly spread across. We've got some vision there, Amanda. The blaze broke out on Wednesday and rapidly spread across bamboo scaffolding covering the exterior of the building, trapping residents and fueling the intensity of the flames. Now, as we go back to our live shot, you can see fire crews continue to douse the building with water. Authorities say 279 people remain missing as emergency crews continue searches inside the damaged complex. Officials say highly flammable external materials may have contributed to the speed and scale of the disaster. Hong Kong police have arrested 3 people connected to the construction firm responsible for works at the site as investigations continue into the possible safety breaches and negligence. Fire crews remain on the scene, facing dangerous conditions from structural damage and heavy smoke. Authorities warn the death toll may rise as rescue operations continue. This is now being described as one of the deadliest residential fires in Hong Kong history. And of course, we're sending all our thoughts out to the people of Hong Kong tonight as they deal with this tragedy. All right, let's have a look at some feedback coming through to McKnight Tonight. Jeanette says, it's Tipsy Thursday. I have a Baileys tonight and a frozen L&P drink. Fantastic, Jeanette. I have the white wine and it's actually now getting cold in here. So, I'll just have some cold, well, it's warmed up a bit now, but some warm white wine and a cold night. Mikey Spikey says, happy Tipsies. Thank you, Mikey Spikey. Own Your Crazy says, it's been so hot that I considered sleeping in the bathtub so my sweat could drain away. Oh, sexy. Matthew says, Northern Territory is 1 hour less than SA or 30 minutes less than Queensland. Thank you, Matthew. So that means our special Zoom call tomorrow night will be at 6:30 Northern Territory time. Thank you, Matthew. And you can join that just becoming a paid member of the McKnight Tonight YouTube page. Jason says, if this is Barnaby Joyce, if he is part of the Nationals, he should stay with them until the end of the term. It should not be allowed to change parties. Too many people do it. I agree with you in theory, Jason. I'm against people doing it. I'm actually happy to make an exception here because this isn't someone who got in and a year later is leaving the party. This is someone who's been part of the Nationals and they're not doing the right thing by him. So this is the one time I can put up with it. Mikey Spikey says his electorate did vote for him as a Nationals Party member. However, his last result on first preference was a 52.22%. Next was the ALP on 20.32. His popularity in New England is emphatic regardless. So true, Mikey Spikey. We've got this one from Jimmy. Great job in showing longer footage of Barnaby Joyce. News Bulletin showed very quick grabs from Joyce and lost almost all meaning. Thank you, Jimmy. It was a bit longer than a normal topic, but yeah, I think it was important to show it. We go over the page and Matthew says, why not the Mayor of Alice Springs? Okay, this is on the Tom Tate one, right? This is Tom Tate from the Gold Coast going to the Olympics and he says, why not the Mayor of Alice Springs? Very good point, Matthew. Mikey Spikey says, totally agree about getting rid of local council elections, reps, mayors, replace with more state electorates instead. We can do better and have more effective governance with better use of money. Well said, Mikey Spike. We've got this one from Own Your Crazy. Do we need to dress up for Zoom? Will we be able to see each other? Yes, you will be able to see each other. So yeah, dress up or go naked. Totally up to you.
He was joking, everybody.
Whatever, you do you. No HR complaints at McKnight Tonight.
I'm putting in a complaint.
All right, plenty still ahead in this edition of McKnight Tonight. My Backend Quickie tonight. It's fascinating because it's a UK politician seeing something and the moment captured and it made huge headlines in the UK. I'll show you that. But first, let's get to some more hot topics.
We've invited you here. You don't need to apologise for your story or for what you're saying. I heard the yapping. There was a lot I didn't understand about myself until I had that diagnosis. Don't get the shitties with me. Oh, Sky. No, that's Sky.
Funny, insightful interviews from a washed-up producer with nothing to lose. McKnight Tonight, McKnight Tonight. Here comes McKnight Tonight.
I've had a spillage, Amanda. I was filling up the wine. Sorry about that. We're all good. No
Don't
harm,
waste
no
the
foul.
wine.
I know, I know. Sorry about that, everybody. Let's move on. Serious. Well, the AFL's biggest broadcast partner may already be getting cold feet. Less than a year into a multi-billion-dollar rights agreement, Foxtel's new owner DAZN believes it is paying too much for the league and could seek to claw back money. According to The Age, DAZN, which bought Foxtel for $3.4 billion last year, now considers the AFL deal overpriced with limited potential for subscriber growth. The current agreement sees Seven and Foxtel paying a combined $4.5 billion over 7 years, with Foxtel's share estimated at around $418 million per year. Industry sources say Foxtel was pushed to its financial limit to outbid a rival Paramount offer that could have delivered $6 billion over 10 years to the AFL. Now, following DAZN's termination of major European soccer deals and public comments about operating at a loss, questions are being raised about whether the AFL agreement could be renegotiated. Foxtel insists no discussions have taken place and says it remains committed to delivering live 4K coverage of every match for years to come. But behind the scenes, the message appears clear. The world's most expensive sports rights deals are no longer untouchable. This is really, really important. Mark my words on this. So, DAZN wants a sporting channel. It bought Foxtel. But the thing it has realised is that AFL and NRL don't travel overseas. And when you look at the deals reached for the AFL and the NRL, they're much bigger than realistically what the market... Now, the market is whatever the market will pay. But when you compare to soccer rights and the like, it's very expensive. And I think it's unsustainable. And I think we will see networks, including Foxtel, including Channel 7 and Channel 9, really making some tough decisions. Channel 10 is saying they might try to bid for the NRL rights, but unless Paramount is willing to put a stack of cash on the table, that's not going to happen. And 10 has lost $500 million in the last couple of years. That's their financial losses for the year, $500 million. So Foxtel, when they say we're committed to the AFL for years to come, well, yes, that's because the rights go until what? Is it 2031 or 2030 or 2031? So they're locked into that. They can try to renegotiate, but the AFL owes them nothing. What then becomes interesting is what happens going forward. If DAZN says, no, we're out, then where does the AFL go? Now, streaming services like Netflix and Disney Plus could come in and try to take on those rights, but they've shown that they're hesitant at the moment. Again, because of those overseas plays, they don't play so well overseas, those games, so why pay a lot of money? But if you want to increase your footprint in Australia, then these games are good games to have. There's nothing bigger in this country than NRL and AFL. But they've shown a reluctance because of our anti-siphoning laws. You see, the games have to be on free-to-air TV. Now, somehow, and I still can't work out how this happened, Foxtel does get exclusive games each round. And I think that's been allowed to slip under the radar. But there's a limit to that. They can't have semi-finals and grand finals and things like that, state of origin. So if a streaming service like Netflix comes in, it has to understand that a 7 or a 9 or a 10 or ABC has to have the free-to-air rights. Now, where it gets more complicated is the federal government in the anti-siphoning list has not guaranteed the digital rights. And we know over 30% of Australians don't have an aerial. 60% of Australians watch free-to-air TV through the apps, 9 Now, 7 Plus, 10 Play. So there's a potential 60% of the Australian audience that won't have access to AFL and NRL if a streaming service comes in. They're not willing to go down that path yet and force legislation. They're waiting to see where everything lands. So the government is sending us up the creek without a paddle because those who watch free-to-air TV through their apps on their TVs aren't going to have, or possibly won't have access. DAZN's pulling out because it's too expensive. And the other streamers, the international streamers like Netflix, Disney Plus and Prime, may think it's too expensive for return on investment. So Peter V'landys at the NRL, who's been hoping for these big paydays, may not get it. And in fact, they might see the value of the NRL and AFL go down. Things are getting fascinating as the crunch, the advertising revenue crunch, comes on the free-to-air networks. Things are about to change. Well, if you've ever tried talking to a teenager and been met with a blank zombie-like stare and a pair of AirPods that refuse to budge, you're not alone. But according to experts, Gen Z isn't being rude at all. They're evolving. A new report in the Herald Sun says what many older Australians see as disrespect, silent stares, eyes down, headphones in, and an avoidance of phone calls is actually a coping and processing style shaped by modern social environments. Uni essay educator Alexandra Gravardis says the so-called Gen Z stare is often zoning out, thinking or managing awkwardness, not defiance. Communication expert Madeline Miller adds that texting over calling allows teens to regulate responses and avoid misreading tone, making communication feel safer and more controlled. In other words, what looks like attitude may simply be adaptation. What a crock of shit. Seriously. They're just obsessed with their phones. I get in trouble for it all the time. I'll be... and
you are not a Gen Z, mate.
Yeah, but I've got the heart of a Gen Z. I'll be on the lounge and Amanda and the kids will all be saying, Dad, Dad. And I'm like, what? They're like, we just asked you a question. I'm like, well, I was focused. Remember when we were kids, how we had to adapt to the expectations of our adults, our grandparents? Why does Gen Z expect us to adapt to them? We have to accept they won't pay attention to us. We have to accept they find the world too much and have to regulate. I mean, I've torn up my script here, but what did it say? I'm piecing it together now. Coping and processing style. Yeah. I mean, I just find this ridiculous. Like, they do it, sure, but it doesn't mean they're not being defined. I don't think they're being defined. I think they're just being rude. And I'm guilty of being rude as well. Yes, I've admitted it, Amanda. This idea that they're adapting, please, come on, let's get real. What a load of crap. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section of this video. We'll get to some feedback very shortly. Indeed, but first, it's time for a Backend Quickie.
It's time for a Backend Quickie.
Oh, I'm ready for it. Oh, can you feel it? Now, imagine you're a UK politician, the UK Chancellor, in fact, and you're about to have one of your biggest moments by handing down your budget. There's just one problem. Your budget has been leaked and cameras are capturing your every moment as you find out. That's exactly what happened to Rachel Reeves on the floor of the UK Parliament.
This is the moment Rachel Reeves learned that her budget had been leaked half an hour before she was due to deliver it. The Office for Budget Responsibility published the Chancellor's financial plan online by mistake.
Oh, you know, I bet John Howard's glad that he wasn't being filmed when Laurie Oakes leaked his budget. Remember all those years ago? John Howard called him the budget burglar. Can we have a look at that again, Amanda? Because I just think it's fascinating. We're literally
Rachel
seeing
Reeves
the moment.
learned that her budget had been leaked half an hour before she was due to deliver it. The Office for Budget Responsibility published the Chancellor's financial plan online by mistake.
Someone's gonna get fired. All right, let's take a look at some feedback coming through to McKnight Tonight. And we've got this one from Own Your Crazy regarding Trump. Typical Trump, scapegoating his former rivals to big note his own rhetoric. Donald Trump doesn't possess statesmanship. He functions as a CEO. I agree with that. Over the page we go. Jeanette says, that was shocking with Hong Kong. Yeah, it really was. It's a terrible story, terrible story. We've got this one from Own Your Crazy. Can't believe all 7 towers caught alight. Indeed. This one from Beck. I do wonder why the AFL hasn't made much impact overseas. I know it's a pretty powerful game, especially when you see NFL America and they're all padded up and they go 2 meters and they stop again. And AFL, they always look at our AFL players and go, they're doing all this. It's so physical and they're not wearing any protection. It's actually really impressive. We got this one from Mikey Spiky. Sports rights in Australia are way overpriced. If I, as a broadcaster, want to pay big money for coverage, why do I want limited access and not every game? The anti-siphoning list is also a joke. Yeah, I think it is. And I've never understood why Foxtel can have games exclusively. It seems to go against the whole anti-siphoning list, but I reckon the commercial networks agreed to it as part of their negotiations to get the rights. That's my guess. Jimmy says, there are experts that did studies on Gen Z stares and adapting. What a waste. The Gen Z stare. Matthew says, when I was in my teens and 20s, it was all about respect for elders and you will have the future and learn from people before you. When I was 30, it was all about looking after kids and teens. Yeah. And seriously, I mean, we've got one in the room who might turn on me if I say the wrong thing. Love you, Jazz. Anyway, moving on. Own Your Crazy says, finally, it's an excellent coping mechanism for people with legitimate anxiety disorders to centre themselves. Even then, you can politely ask for a moment. And look, hang on, there's a late breaking commenter, Jazz. Look at this one. We've got a new person. Hi, Rob from Bendigo. This is from Alison. If we have a look at that. Relatively new to your channel, but I'm loving it. Wish I'd discovered you earlier. Well, Alison, it's never too late, as the great Kylie Minogue once sang. So, Alison, as Jeanette says, it's welcome, great to see you. And see, as soon as you comment on our YouTube page, the regulars will come out, they'll say hi, they'll welcome you. Beck's welcoming you right now. Take part in this community. It's a great place to be. We've got such a wonderful community. So, yeah, I love the people who watch this show. So, Alison, we're here every Monday, Wednesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. You're in Bendigo, so 9 p.m. and Meaty McKnight on Tuesday. And if you go and become a paid member, we're doing a Zoom chat tomorrow. The link will be sent in the members feed tomorrow. So that's happening at 8 o'clock your time. All right, that brings us to the end of this edition of McKnight Tonight. Thanks for your company. It's going to be a big show next week. A very special edition. We are going to tackle the YouTube ban. So the social media ban, is it going to cause deaths? And what about YouTube? Should it be part of it? I've got a lot of people coming in for this. This is going to be a panel situation, and we are going to do a big discussion about this. And I think it's very important. And there's a High Court challenge against the social media ban happening right now that could delay it until March. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as well. Lots happening. Monday is going to be a very big show. So be ready for that one. I will see you at 9 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Time, 8 o'clock in Queensland, 8:30 in South Australia, and 7:30 in Northern Territory, and 6 p.m. in WA. I'm Rob McKnight. Have a great weekend. It's good night from McKnight.
It's good night from McKnight.